It is hard to believe that 2 years ago is pretty much when I started sitting here. I have been creating YouTube content for 2 years now, which is I never ever thought it would get to this point. You guys are absolutely amazing. You've spoiled me so much. All the people hitting that subscribe button, all the likes, all the comments, all the relationships that I've made with you guys. It's unbelievable. And I sit there and I reflect on it all the time. And I'm not going to bore you guys with a bunch of sappy stories, but I really appreciate you guys. And when I started this journey 2 years ago, I really wanted to make content that was a little bit different, not just pack openings, but really deep dive into the hobby, deep dive into this from a collecting standpoint, a business standpoint, a competitive playing standpoint, and utilizing all the different facets that Pokemon cards bring to the table. And then trying to find your niche, your own path, and kind of explaining to you how you can make this work, how you can grow whatever it is that you want to grow, whether it be as a player or as a collector or as a business owner, whatever you can do. I want to be able to help with that. I want to give information that is valuable based off of the mistakes that I've made in the past. And when I recorded one of my first videos, which was how to buy Pokemon cards at wholesale 2 years ago, I didn't realize what we were going into. I didn't realize we were going into this pandemic that was going to make Pokemon blow up, where everybody was going to try and basically open up their own Pokemon card store, but work with distributors, buy stuff at wholesale, sell it, flip it, because there was such thick profit margins that were involved. And during those videos, I talked about slow organic growth and finding slow margins and things like that. And now that things are settling down, I really wanted to go back to that video and try and do things a little bit better, try and do it a little bit better. And you may not be looking at starting your own Pokemon card store, and that's fine. When I first started, I was involved in Pokemon from a hobby standpoint, basically from Team Rocket all the way through Wizards of the Coast. I started falling out a little bit when e-reader series came out, and then I was pretty much out of the game altogether when the EX series started. I had some EX stars, some EX sets that I collected, but for the most part, life got in the way, jobs got in the way, things like that. My focus wasn't on Pokemon. I missed Heart Gold, Soul Silver altogether. I missed Diamond and Pearl altogether. I missed Black and White altogether. I sold off my collection multiple times, and when I came back into the game around the Phantom Forces era, I didn't have any money. I was broke, and the reason I was broke was because I was, I was a 20-year-old kid who was starting his life. I was getting married, and I was buying a condo, and I had college debt, and all these things. I had to sell all of my Pokemon cards. So when I was looking at any cards that I could find and reading up on competitive play, I was like, I can't afford this. And I'm sure a lot of you people, I say you people, not in a negative way, I'm sure a lot of you guys are in the same boat as me, as what I was in, where it was like, how can I still grow my collection? How can I still enjoy this? Because it gets expensive, and with the MSRP increase coming with Scarlet and Violet, it's going to make things more and more difficult, right? So I started thinking, okay, well, what can I do to grow a collection and not have to spend money on it? What can I do to grow a collection and be able to get back some of that investment, so that way I can invest it into other cards? I'm not looking to invest it in stocks. I'm not looking to 10x, 100x overnight. I'm looking to grow my collection. I'm looking to grow something special. And I started looking, and I started researching, and I started doing things, and I started making a ton of mistakes. And then eventually, as things started growing and growing more and more, I was able to start turning things into a business. I started looking more at distributors. I started looking more at wholesale. I started looking more and more at options of trying to figure out ways that I could help competitive players find affordable cards, because Tapu Lele was super expensive, and Shaman was super expensive. And a lot of people who were going around traveling to events had event costs already building up, so spending $400, $500 on a deck just wasn't feasible for them. So I wanted to figure out ways that I could help out as much as possible. And I get a lot of messages and a lot of questions kind of pinpointing different areas of the hobby and what people can do to try and grow their collection. And that could be where you're at. And it could be somebody who's looking to start out their own storefront, or maybe it's just an online store, or maybe it's somebody who's looking to grow in the competitive game. And I really want to be able to help with that. It was a really long introduction. What is going on, Fan Clan? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Danny Phantump. Happy Tuesday. I owe you guys this video, and I wanted to make it for a while, and I really wanted to put everything together and talk about things without missing it. So I apologize if the video gets a little long. I'm going to try and keep it as concise as possible, but there's a lot of thoughts that need to go into opening up a Pokemon store, buying cards at wholesale, and it is not what you would think about. I remember when I first started kind of getting involved and trying to start my own business, I interviewed a ton of different store owners who were looking at closing their shop. I interviewed store owners who were successful, telling me not to do it, that it was the margins don't work, especially because I was going to have a focus on Pokemon. At the time, Pokemon, there were no margins. You weren't going to be able to open up a Pokemon store and make money because all the other card games were more successful. Yu-Gi-Oh was more successful. Magic the Gathering was more successful. They had better margins and a bigger player base, which was really going to feed your store. And I started looking at things, and although I wanted to open up a brick and mortar, it just wasn't possible looking at overhead, looking at costs, and looking at things like that for a store that wanted to specialize in Pokemon and really just help out as much as possible. So I really appreciated all the advice that they gave me, and a lot of people are probably saying, hey, I'll do it differently. It'll be different. And everybody says that. Everybody says that. And that's what I said. And for a long time, I failed and failed and failed. And there is a ton of thought that needs to go in to taking that leap, to taking that, to starting up your own Pokemon store. And one of the best things about Pokemon up until pretty much last year is you could buy product at wholesale without having a brick and mortar. And I do think we're going to get back to that point. I do think we're going to get back to that time, but it really lets you kind of build your business on your own time and in your own way. So that way you don't have to go to a job 9 to 5 building your storefront. It's not really a 9 to 5 for a brick and mortar because your events are all going to be in the evening. You're working Friday nights, you're working Saturday nights. It's not like a normal day job, but it also lets you work your day job side along with running this hobby. And I'm going to flip you guys around so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. I do have a small presentation that I put together, and I'm not going to go into things too in depth, but it really takes a lot of thought process when it comes to opening up your own Pokemon card store. And even if you're not looking at opening up a Pokemon card store, this information is still going to be super valuable because it's going to help you understand your LGS and understand what they go through on a daily basis, but also helps you understand your collection better and goes back to what I was talking about before about letting your cards kind of work for you, where they're going out there and they're maturing and they're finding ways to grow your collection and things like that. So the first thing that you want to do before really jumping into building your own Pokemon card business, buying cards at wholesale, is you have to think about it. Like, you have to put a lot of thought into it. Dreams aren't going to work unless you do, and the good things take time. Like, you have to be patient. This isn't something that's going to grow overnight. I remember one time I bought a binder on eBay. This happened one time where it had a Dark Dragonite Air card in it that I bought the entire binder for about $47, and that Dark Dragonite Air card by itself was worth over $500 at the time, where you got like 100x overnight return on a purchase. That does not happen frequently. We always talk about these slow organic growths and having margins and things like that. There's not products that I'm really looking in to invest in. I'm not looking at building up a giant warehouse full of booster boxes that will mature in 5 to 10 years. That's not what a business is about. The business is about turning something, using that small margin to invest into another product that's coming out, using that small margin, rinse, repeating, doing it over and over again, and making all that capital work for you, so that way you can grow your inventory and grow your base and grow your customers and grow all those other things. Critical thinking is a huge thing with a Pokemon card business because there is so much that you can do and very little of it is going to be successful. So thinking outside the box is going to be super important. You see this all the time out there. It was a lot easier when bulk was valuable, but right now with bulk being basically worthless, the critical thinking portion of it is really important because you have to find out different ways that you're going to be able to turn profits, considering the fact that a lot of items are selling for wholesale levels already. Bolton boxes being clearanced out at Walmart. Pokemon Go ETB selling for $37, $38. Like, those are wholesale at $32, $33. Like, after shipping, LGSs are losing money on a lot of that stuff. Research is super important because you're going into something that you may think you know, but ultimately there is just such a huge world. And if you talk to some of the most experienced people in the game, like Charlie, like Rusty, like all these people who are on E4 talking all the time, they will tell you flat out they know a lot about Pokemon, but there's also a lot more that they don't know yet. And that's something that you're constantly doing, researching, learning every day. It's very difficult. Once you figure out if you want to take the step, before you can even work with a distributor, is you have to do this the right way. I had a question the other day on YouTube about going and buying out product at stores that were hard to find and how that's different than doing something like this. And in reality, the big difference is that you have a registered license. You're not going out to Target. You're not going out to Walmart. Those products aren't for you. Those products are for kids. Those products are for collectors. Those products are for other people, not for you to buy and turn and flip. What you can do, fill out a form, register as an LLC, register as a business, get your reseller's permit. It's going to be different. Every single state is going to have different requirements. So you have to do that first and foremost before you're even going to be able to get in with a distributor. You're going to have to set up a tax ID. You're going to have to set up a reseller's permit. You have to go through all that stuff. So just go to Google and type in registering a business for your state, getting a tax ID for your state, getting a reseller's permit for your state, and put whatever state you live in that search bar, so that way you can figure out the proper documentation that you need to fill out, pay the registration fee, and it doesn't take long. Within a couple weeks, you'll have your own ID. You'll be able to start emailing, working with distributors, things like that. But you have to fill out the forms first. Then it comes down to figuring out where you want to sell your cards, especially if you're not somebody who's going to be specializing in a brick and mortar, but also if you are a brick and mortar, websites, socials. We live in a completely different era now than what it used to be like for a lot of brick and mortars. A lot of brick and mortars used to be able to rely solely on, patronage, people in their town, people in their hometown coming and spending money. And there are still a lot of brick and mortar stores that have success off of that. But websites and socials are going to be so much bigger because the audience is so large online, and there's a lot of different areas that you're going to be able to capitalize off of. So establishing yourself on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter, on Reddit. These are a bunch of different areas that you can go to meet the community. When I first got into a Pokemon business with a couple of friends, and we started up trying to really kind of cater to the whole competitive field, it was very difficult for us to grow because we were limiting ourselves to competitive play, which at the time we thought was this huge, massive thing. But when you start backing up a little bit and not focusing on the dot, you realize there's such a bigger world out there. And once we started understanding how big the collector's world is, how big the casual player's world is, how big the casual fan is, it's just so much bigger than just that competitive niche. So all these different niches that are important for you to get experience with and experience in is very valuable and very important as you're trying to grow your business. There's different websites that you can go out there and utilize for building. You can use something like Wix. You can use something like Shopify. We use Shopify in specific. Each one is going to have great strengths and weaknesses. It really just determines on the amount of research that you want to put in. You can use something like Squarespace, but you're going to need to have a website because you at least have to have some outlet that you're going to be able to provide distributors with, so that way they know where you are turning this product to. So definitely look at those different website options if you'd like. And then you have to kind of choose, do you want to go the brick and mortar route, or do you want to go the online route? A lot of things to kind of wager into consideration here. Brick and mortar, you're going to be able to get access to more products. You're not going to have access just to Pokemon. Yu-Gi-Oh! Only sells to brick and mortar stores. A lot of Magic products are only going to be available to brick and mortar stores. It gives you kind of an option for a little bit better of allocations when it comes to brick and mortar stores. Gives you the option to sell more unique items like games, like comic books. So if you're somebody who focuses a lot on Pokemon cards, but you also have interests that lie in a lot of other trading card games plus hobbies in general, then brick and mortar stores might be something that you're interested in. But you really want to start doing surveys and getting a feel for the area that you're looking to put things up in, because the last thing that you're going to want to do is open up a brick and mortar store, realize nobody in that demographic is interested in those events or in those games, and then you have to shut down within a year. So it's definitely something you're not going to want to take lightly, and you're really going to want to do your homework on, because there's a lot that goes in with opening up your own brick and mortar store when you start looking at overhead costs like rent and employees and utilities and all these additional things that you're going to have to carry and hold that don't even turn a profit for your business. It makes it very difficult to operate a brick and mortar store on any sort of a profit. And if they've evolved a lot over time, a lot of brick and mortar stores used to rely on video games and things like that, where you could come in and it would be more of an arcade setting. But as TCGs and tabletop games have continued to grow, a lot of stores have been able to make more money off of having events and having Friday Night Magic and having other things. And as more Pokemon leagues are going to be opening up next year and more events are coming back to normal, it's definitely something that brick and mortar stores are going to be able to capitalize off of. But at the same time, still a very, very difficult thing. And any brick and mortar store will tell you that margins are super, super thin. And for the most part, it doesn't work without an online presence. So weighing the pros and cons of online versus brick and mortar is definitely something that you're going to want to take a look at. After that, you can start looking for distribution options. There's a lot of different distributors across the world. Here is just a snip of them, but you can literally just go to Google and you can type in who are the Pokemon distributors, who are Pokemon TCG distributors, and you'll be able to go to a support ticket that was already opened up that Pokemon has made public, and you can kind of just look right here, and here are all of the different distributors that work with Pokemon cards that you can kind of reach out to. I would highly recommend going to each of these, finding out which ones are close to your area, and starting to at least fill out applications. I have talked to several different distributors over the past couple weeks who said that they may not be accepting applications for online stores only, but they are at least considering them, taking them in, and they will hold them for a period of time for when they are ready to start taking those in and accepting them again. So brick and mortar right now is going to have a little bit of an advantage because they're going to get approved more quickly, but we are getting to a point now where a lot of stores, there's going to be a lot more options in the future. So definitely something I was told multiple times to encourage to at least fill out an application to see where people are. So this is just definitely an option, a good resource to go to. Gives you a lot of different options that you can kind of talk to. You can reach out, you can give them a call. I recommend just going on their websites. A lot of them will have websites to give you a feel of what you're going to be looking and working with when it comes to ordering process and things like that. Get a feel for what their application process is like, and then kind of reach out to them to see what they're doing. There's other countries in here that are listed. A lot of them are going to be kind of going to Asmodee, which is going to be Europe's only distributor. A lot of the distributors not as prevalent outside of North America, but there are additional options if you would like to go to different options. After that, you're really going to want to go into supplies, and I've recorded videos before on supplies, so I'm not going to touch too heavily on this. This is just basic supplies that you're going to want to order when you're starting a business. Envelopes, so that way you can sell on different websites like TCG Player. Bubble envelopes, so that way you have options to protect your booster boxes, protect single cards, things like that. Stamps, boxes, obviously. Top loaders, card sleeves, if you would prefer card savers, that's totally fine as well. Team bags, so that way you can properly wrap everything together, hold it tight so it doesn't shuffle around in the mail. These are definite options out there, but you want to look around. You want to utilize sites like Uline, utilize sites like eBay, Amazon, because each product is going to have a better price point depending on what sales channel you go to. So definitely do your research. Just don't go on to eBay and be like, hey, I need 8x8x8 boxes, and click the first listing, because you want to find the best deal, because all of those price points are going to impact your bottom line, and it's definitely something that you want to be aware of. Finally, you have to know where you want to sell your cards, and this is very important. We talked about research before. There are options out there. You can sell on Reddit, you can sell on Instagram, you can sell on social media outlets. Those are great, but there's other outlets that are designed to help you turn some product. The Card Coliseum at the top there, obviously, that's our own website. So utilizing your own website to help sell some of your cards, some of your inventory, your fees are going to be better when you work with your own website. You're looking at maybe 3-4% fees as opposed to 13-14% fees if you're working with one of these other options. TCG Player, even though it's confusing, and I'll go through a video in the future on how to sell on TCG Player where we actually go through listing cards and things like that. It's something that you definitely want to work up to. It takes a while to kind of build up your inventory on TCG Player and establish a strong seller rating. Same thing with eBay. So you really want to get the ball rolling, start a little bit earlier, so that way you can list a few things, get a few sales under your belt, kind of learn the process as you go. And that's kind of the thing. You really just want to dive right in when it comes to some of these things. Even if you're not looking at starting your own business, this is something that you can do without having your own business, just to kind of move part of your collection, so that way you can make those cards work for you and find ways to kind of grow your collection that way. eBay, Amazon, Mercari. When I talk about knowing your sales channels, I mean learning everything about your sales channels, because there are cards that sell better and at different price points on one sales channel than they will on the other. And I just pulled up an example here between Amazon and TCG Player. So you can go to TCG Player and you have a card like Primal Groudon, for example. So Primal Groudon came out in the Primal Clash set. You have copies of it selling for around $18.18 for the regular art, $33.19 for the full art. That's TCG Player. But if you look for the same card on Amazon, these cards are selling for $34.99 on Amazon for the regular art, $51.95 for the full art on Amazon. So if you have copies of Primal Groudon that you're like, okay, I want to list these, you're going to be better off selling them on Amazon, because it returns a higher price point than a website like TCG Player, where if you list it there, you're not going to get as much for it. So learning the ins and outs of every single sales channel, so that way you can utilize them to capture the most revenue, is going to be super important. I hope you found this information valuable. If you did, please consider hitting that subscribe button down below. We are closing in on 100,000 subscribers. When we do, we're going to do 3 vintage booster box breaks for free for all you guys, just for all of your support because you've been so amazing. We're going to have all the hits graded by CGC with a special insignia on top. It's going to be absolutely amazing, and I can't wait to celebrate with you guys. So thank you so much for everything. Leave a comment, leave a like. It goes a long way for the algorithm. Share the channel, share the videos. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much for everything. Until next time, guys. Peace.